Hey guys, welcome to Timeless Mysteries Live. I got a guest here from Mid-Atlantic Unsolved. This is Jeremy Smith. Hey Molly, I'm glad you're here. I'm expecting a few more people will show up anytime soon, I hope. I hope everybody's not asleep. But Jeremy, why don't you tell us about your blog?
Okay, sure. I started this blog back in July. It's called Mid-Atlantic Unsolved. It's on Facebook, and I mainly cover cases. So that means cases from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and then Delaware. And so those are the cases that I look into, is like cases from those states in those areas. And there's quite a bunch you can cover, even within like a relatively narrow part of the United States. I prefer covering like obscure cases, usually on the more obscure side, like cases that maybe not people don't really know that much about. I'm not really interested in, say, like, a John Benet Ramsey type of case, or, I really like putting the spotlight on cases that are not very well known.
So I know you had mentioned that there was a couple of cases that you wanted to talk about. I think Anne Manchester, J. Farley, the J. Farley one, and the Mazie Sigmon, right? That it, and Linda O'Day. So what about those cases really like interest you, I guess, because these are older cases. I guess before we get into that, actually, I'm curious, do you help people find people who are missing like in real time too, not just like the old cases? Do you do current stories on missing people?
I generally don't. I really do prefer to stick with like the older cases. I know that there is a blog that I'm involved with. It's called First State Unsolved. It's focused on Delaware cases, and I know that it's run by a woman named Monica Ortega, and she does a lot of current cases. If you'd like to look at more like current cases than what I would cover.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could call myself a cold case person.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is, like, with what I find when I'm researching these cold cases, a lot of times there's like this DNA that's been stored in evidence for like years, and all of a sudden, I guess I focus more on the true crime, not mostly missing person. So it might be a little different when you're looking for a cold case and a missing person, but they have this DNA evidence now, and they can do the whole genome sequencing. It's expensive, but they don't need like a good sample anymore to like compare DNA to people and stuff. I can't imagine what it would be like to lose somebody and not know. And these cases that you have talked to me about, they're like older than I am, and I can't imagine what that would feel like to not know for that long.
Okay, I have a question about how long I've been doing this. So let me go ahead. I started writing blogs. Well, I guess I first started getting into true crime because of a YouTuber that was named Kaylee Elise. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kaylee Elise, but she did a lot of true crime. It was kind of like at that whole like true crime explosion era where like, it's Kaylee Elise and Danielle Halen and, Stephanie Harlow. I mean, I'm still into all of that. Although Kaylee Elise, she kind of took a step back. She hasn't, I don't think she's done videos in at least 8 years. It's been a long time. She left before, like I want to say like 2018 or something like that. But I guess the first case that I'm going to talk about, Like I started researching it back in 2019. It's the case of this woman named Anne Manchester. She was a University of Delaware student, which is where I graduated from. So like that's where I have my interest in that case. She uh, she was a graduate student finishing up her MBA. Well, do you care about like the order in which I do the cases, or do you want me to?
No, no, it's all
Okay.
up to you. I've got a few like details like I could chime in on, but I haven't researched it as much as you, so I'll let you do most of the talking.
Yeah, no. Okay, let me just I guess give you like an overview of a case. So, all right. This is about a graduate student at University of Delaware. She was finishing up her master's degree in business administration. Her name was Anne Denise Victoria Manchester. She was 26 years old, and she was last seen alive on June 29th, 1980. She was studying for her final exams in her program, and it was a Sunday. She was last seen by a male friend that had stayed the night with her, and then he left her house, her apartment building around 12 o'clock. Then she called up a female friend on the phone. I believe it was someone that she also went to school. She went to school with this person, and then they just talked about just a catch up call, like what's going on, how are things going, et cetera, et cetera. And then that was like the last time that Anne Manchester was seen alive, or like there was any kind of contact with her. And then nobody really knew what had happened. She didn't show up for her exams the way she would have. Like she was a very dependable person. Like that's the thing that when you like read about her case is that like that's something that people stress. She was a dependable person. She was very neat. She was very orderly. Like if she had a goal, she was going to set out and do it. That was just the type of person she was. She would not have to skip out on, her final exams for a master's degree that she had worked very, very hard on. So a week went by, and then a couple more days went by, and then on, I believe it was around June 9th, her parents, their names are Andrew and Joyce Manchester. They came back from a vacation that they were doing in New York. So remember, like, they live in Delaware, but her parents were taking a vacation in New York and lived alone in her own apartment. So when her parents tried to get in contact with her, they called her on the phone. She wasn't answering. That concerned them because it was very unlike Anne to like not answer or stay in contact with them. So they went to Anne's apartment, and then that's when they discovered that the door was unlocked, and then everything inside basically was. It looked like she had just stepped off real quick. Like she had books on the table, as if she were in the middle of studying. Her shoes were underneath. Her sandals were like underneath one of the tables. Like her purse, her cigarettes, her car keys were all still inside the apartment, and then her car was still like outside in the parking lot. And then they noticed that there was a glass of soda that was left on the table, and it had film on it, as if it had been sat for a very long time. So then that's when they called the police. But of course, like the police had, there wasn't. They had a very it was such a delayed thing. They'd never really been able to do much of the case just because there wasn't a lot of evidence. That's when they did discover that they were figured out the last time she seen, and then they did try to do searches around her apartment building because there was like a wooded area, and her apartment building was actually very close to Interstate 95. So she could have been taken anywhere. The general conclusion about her case, and there really hasn't been much about it. There is a general belief that she was hurt by a married man that she had been involved with, and then I mean, I guess you can imagine the rest. But if
Right.
you like, yeah,
Yeah. That's kind of terrifying. Those situations where like they just disappear like that. Um, when I first started looking into this, I was trying to find like, well, maybe she was stressed in school and she just wanted to go and leave. But this is back in 1980. You know, that's a lot of time that would have passed. She could have like just like called her family if she just like took off on her own and quit school. Because I mean, that could technically happen. um, stress affects people differently. But then, you think about the boyfriend that stayed over or was over there. He was the last person that they know saw her alive. And that's usually the first suspect, right?
well, yeah. So let me clear it up for a second. Okay, so she was involved with a married man, but the man that had been spending the night with her was not the same person.
Hmm.
There's two different
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
I don't think
So
she had like a boyfriend technically. She was seeing
right,
people.
she was kind of she was 26. She was young. She was seeing different people. Yeah. So the man that they think is the person who did it, or like I generally get the clue that they believe he did it. He wasn't that. He was something that she had been seeing kind of off and on, and at that point it was kind of off because she wanted to see other people, and then that was no. He was a married man from Pennsylvania. They used to work together at Claymont Steel, and then that leads you to like the I'm not sure if I can. Is there like yeah? So
Uh,
that's how they think. Yeah, so that's what they think might have happened to her. Another possibility with her case is
Hey, Olga, I'm glad you made it. Sorry.
you're fine. Yeah,
But
so
yeah, so that case is really interesting. And I don't think people realize what the difference between 1980 and today is. I don't even think they had wireless phones yet in 1980.
right, and like I said, a lot of people kind of were like, well, why didn't nobody notice that she had gone missing? And I mean, like, that's just the way it is. Like, a 26 year old.
People weren't like attached to their phones like they are
Right,
nowadays. Like there would be long periods of time that people wouldn't talk to each other, and that was normal. You might get a phone call every night or every other night, even, and if you're too far away, they had long distance, you
right.
know. I mean, it was a different time, and I mean, it really kind of blows my mind that all this stuff was just there. Like, somebody just dragged her out of her house without causing any damage. So maybe she walked outside, she knew somebody, and then they took her.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
generally how I believe it played out. I don't think that anything happened in her apartment. I think that she walked out to the parking lot, and I think she was lured out by somebody she knew, and then she was kidnapped in the parking lot. And I think, unfortunately, because it took so long for people to realize anything had happened, like people who may have like seen something weird, like they may have seen like this girl being forced into a car, like they might have forgotten it by the time like the police started asking around. Because from what I read, like they were very the police were very good about like talking to the residents of the apartment building of the apartment complex she disappeared from. That does lead to like an alternative theory, which is that there was a man, like a resident, who like lived in the building, and he was seen like spying on people with a
Mhm.
telescope, and that was like they had wondered if maybe he could have something to do with it. So that's like an
What's
alternative
his
theory.
name? I mean, have they investigated him?
I was told that they did, and then they ruled him out. But then, like, but I mean, like I said, that is like an alternative theory. Like, there's not really
Mhm.
much in this case, except for just theories, which is unfortunate. But I've been trying to, raise awareness about the case and see if anything can be shaken loose.
Have you talked to any of her family members at all? Or
Well, her father, her mother has passed away. I know that. I was able to like read a file on the case, and it said that specifically that her family did not want to be contacted just because it was too painful for them. I
Mhm.
know that she does have a brother, but considering that like there is like a specific like the family specifically does not want to talk about the case, then there's only so much you can do, right? Um,
Mhm.
there is a blogger. If you've ever heard of him, Crime Blogger 83.
I have not heard of them.
Yeah, he's done some research on the case, and he said that he's talked with the guy that was spending the night at her house, and from what he told me, the guy who was spending the night at her house, he said that Anne was planning on meeting the married man at 3 p.m. that day. So Anne talks to her friend at 2 o'clock. All right, so
Mhm.
the friend that Anthony talked to, or Crime Blogger 1983 talked to, that guy leaves at 12 o'clock. Anne talks to her female friend at 2 o'clock, and then she's supposed to meet this guy, the married man from Pennsylvania, at 3, and then that's when she seems to disappear. Um, I did, yeah. So that's a definite another venue to like look into. But that was what that's where it all kind of seems to go back to the married man that Anne had been involved with.
Well, you know what's weird though? I think it would be weird if the guy that stayed the night knew about the married man. Like that just seems like a big conflict right there. Like I mean, I guess people nowadays might be more open to like, you know, relationships that aren't, just black and white. But in 1980, I mean, I think that would have been weird, if you're seeing somebody who's seeing somebody else and you're talking about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm only doing like hearsay at this point. Like this is like what I was
Right.
told.
No, no, no. I'm just talking. I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like if you think about it, like all other crimes and stuff, I mean, that just seems like that would be something that could cause a problem with one boyfriend meeting the other boyfriend or knowing that the other boyfriend's going to be there. Um, I just think it was a different time back then too, and people didn't see relationships like they do nowadays. They weren't as open-minded to things like that.
Well, yeah, and I think they did know about each other because from what because Anne she turned 26 on June 10th, right? So she turns 26 on June 10th, and then she disappears on June 29th. And I believe at some point she had like a 26th birthday party, and then like both of the guys were at that party. From what I mean, like I said, I'm
Mhm.
not 100% sure about that's what I was told
Yeah.
about the case. So then that's where things might have like come to a head. Like one person knowing about the other person, and then completely reasonable.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other
Well,
avenue. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I was just going to say, well, I mean, I guess it is also possible that they did actually were all friends. Maybe they didn't have an issue. I just think it stands out to me anyway. Like as I'm trying to process I mean, what little is known, what I'm trying to process, it just kind of screams, ah, you know?
Well, yeah, and the other possibility that I've kind of looked into, like this is like I kind of called it the 1980s Jennifer Kess theory. You know what I mean? Are you
Mhm.
familiar? You're familiar with Jennifer Kess, right?
Um,
I think that's a very well-known case.
I don't like the name sounds familiar at the moment, but I'm like, I don't know right now.
Okay, no, that's fine. I get it. You do a lot of these. So Jennifer Kess, she is a young woman who disappeared from her condominium in 2006. And the general theory about her case is that she was kidnapped by somebody who was like a maintenance worker. So like somebody who was like working on the building. So like when I say like Jennifer Kess theory, I mean like I think Anne could have been abducted by somebody who was doing like work in the apartment building. You know, maybe just knocked into her and said, "Hey, look, we got to check your building for something real quick. Come on out," and then she gets abducted that way.
Yeah. You know, I just pulled up a image of Jennifer Kess, and one of the people that was at least here at the beginning of the show, it kind of looks like I'm gonna have to share a screenshot in case she's still watching. It kind of looks like Jennifer. I think Olga knows her too. But just like it's weird. Trying to figure out how to share the thing. Oh, there it is. Is it sharing? Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Olga? Does that look like Jen? Jen, are you still here? She has a YouTube channel also. She does true crime, but I don't think she's here. That definitely looks like her.
Yeah. The Jennifer Kess theory, that happened in Florida. If you guys are wondering, the state that I'm talking about is in Delaware. Yeah, this case is from Delaware, the Anne Manchester case.
So Anne, this was, what college was she at? This was Manchester, or wait?
Yeah, she was attending
the University of Delaware.
That's where I attended many decades later. But yeah, that's why I'm interested in cases. Is like I remember kind of looking at it at one point, and then that's where kind of my interest started. And then I guess that could just like kind of take us over to a different case, because for a while I used to think that they were related. I don't really think that anymore, but I did when I first looked at the case. Mm-hmm. So the next case we're going to talk about is Linda O'Day. Could I just like read you guys like my write-up that I did on my blog? Would that be?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right. So let me see if I can find that. Okay. All right. Linda O'Day, 28, was a young woman who was found murdered in her apartment on June 1st, 1981. She lived at 129 East 3rd Street in Newcastle, Delaware. It was a house that had been converted into 2 apartments. The tenant, who had lived on the 2nd floor, became concerned when noticing that Linda's car was still in the driveway in the afternoon, as it was highly unusual for Linda to be home during a weekday as she worked 2 jobs. Getting the landlord, the tenant and the landlord checked on Linda's apartment and immediately saw her body. Linda had been stabbed with a knife to the chest. Linda O'Day was born in 1953 and graduated from William Penn High School in 1971. She was a lifelong resident of Newcastle, Delaware, living just a few blocks away from where she was raised. Her parents were Maurice and Martha O'Day. She had 3 sisters, as well as 3 stepsisters. Described as a quiet and hardworking woman who kept to herself, Linda worked as a secretary in the Delaware State Hospital, it was a mental health hospital, as well as McDonald's on Route 13 in Newcastle, Delaware. Linda O'Day was last seen alive after taking her friend and her friend's boyfriend to their home around 1:30 a.m. on May 29th, 1981. They had spent the night clubbing. Her apartment showed no signs of forced entry. A note about her case is that the kitchen knives had been placed in her laundry basket, as if someone had been lying in wait for her. Linda had been wearing a pink long-sleeve nightgown, which indicated that she had managed to make it into her home and had undressed and gotten ready for bed. Curiously, a pillowcase had been placed on Linda's face. Henry Lee Lucas, noted American serial killer, was looked at as a suspect, but I don't think he's still considered a suspect. This feels like a case that could be solved if DNA evidence in it has been preserved. They did get hair evidence. Personally, I always thought it was likely that Linda was either killed by an ex-boyfriend or a coworker that she had spurned the advances of. If you have any information concerning this case, please contact the FBI's Baltimore field office at 410-265-8080. You may also contact your local FBI office, the nearest American embassy or consulate, or you can submit a tip online at tipsfbi.gov. So yeah, so Linda's case is a little bit different from like the previous case we talked about, in that there is a fair amount of evidence. Like they do have hair fiber evidence, and then they did have like an actual working theory for a while where they thought that like she could possibly be a victim of Henry Lee Lucas, who did have ties to the Delaware area, Maryland, Delaware area, like at the time, like she was murdered in 1981. So it's definitely a case where like it could be solved. Like I really like this is a case where I honestly think it could be solved if like the right evidence is looked at and they could manage to do some genealogy.
You said they had hair though, like they think it's hair of the killer.
Yes.
Or yeah.
Yeah, because it was determined to be male hair.
And they tested it at all?
That's where I'm not sure. So because like this was a possibly looked at as being a Henry Lee Lucas victim. You guys all know who Henry Lee Lucas is? Is that a familiar?
The confession killer.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they think Delaware, like the Delaware detectives sent evidence in case files over to the FBI to look at because they were looking at Henry Lee Lucas, and they did find like they were comparing. I think they did compare hairs, and they ruled him out. Of course, like I said, he's the confession killer, right? Like a lot of the, but they did have hair evidence. I don't know if they still do, like because the records that I were looking at were from 1981, so who knows what could still be actually like in evidence. But I believe the evidence that was mostly found was like hair fibers, and I believe possibly like knives that had been taken by the killer and kind of hidden in her laundry basket. It's a very odd case just because like there wasn't any sign of forced entry in her house. And like when I say like she lived in an apartment building, it really was like a single family home that had been converted into I think 2 apartments. So like it was very small. Like there wasn't like, it's just the other thing that she could be murdered in her apartment building and like her neighbor upstairs didn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're like, what?
That is weird. I'm trying to like. I know you said you don't think they're connected, but I mean, what about the case kind of had you thinking that maybe these 2 cases were connected?
Well, when I first came across it, I thought they could be connected just because of like the time period. Like, so Anne Manchester's case occurs on June 29th, 1980. And then Linda O'Day's case occurs on June 1st, 1981. So that's like less than a year apart. And also like Newcastle, Delaware is very close to Newark, Delaware. Like I think it's like less than 10-mile drive. So that's where like for a while I thought they had been connected. I mean they still could be. I don't know if I really. There's not really much like the more that I've researched it, the less I haven't really found anything else that would point to the cases like being connected. But like in Linda O'Day's case, like most of the research that I've been able to do has just been going over like the files. It's called the Henry Lee Lucas documents.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually online, so you can look up a lot of her case. It's kind of hard to get through the file just because of how it was like transcripted, but like it did have a lot of interesting notations. Like I think the most interesting one is just the fact that like the killer had placed like a pillowcase on her head, like after he'd murdered her. Like like it's almost like he was kind of like showing like a bit of shame,
Hmm.
possibly
Yeah.
like he had known her. So like we don't. And the more like definitely like in Lindo Day's case, it would definitely seem like I don't think it was like a random person. But I think that's probably why they ruled out Henry Lee Lucas, even aside from like the fact that like I don't think the hair matched. Um, like it just doesn't like if you look at like what her apartment building looked like and how it was situated, and it was on like a quiet residential street. Like it's hard to imagine somebody being able to just sneak into her apartment.
Right. But if this is in the 80s, they might have lived somewhere where they don't lock doors.
Sure,
They
no,
don't
that's a possibility too. Yeah,
they don't have security cameras. They don't have, you know, deadbolts, multiple deadbolts. They're a little bit more relaxed with things like that. Especially, I mean, isn't Delaware like one of the safer places to live even
yeah,
now?
no, I mean, yeah, there's some rough areas. This was not a rough area. This, at
Hmm.
least as I know it, I don't. It's a place called Historic Newcastle. It's
Hmm.
a lot of like 18th and 19th century style homes, that are well kept up, and it's a nice area. It's very. I mean, if you ever Google her house, like her apartment, it's a very nice building. Like it's definitely something you wouldn't think would happen there, and that's. But I mean, you are right though, because like there could have been somebody sneaking in, because it did like the fact that like they found laundry knives in the laundry basket that may suggest that somebody may have like had like just taken a bunch of knives from her kitchen, put it in the basket, and they're like planning on like confronting her, like as she got into her room. So anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the few times that I've ever had like kitchen utensils in my laundry basket.
Yeah,
Uh, because I have. That's the funny thing. Like whenever you mentioned that, I was thinking about, but I think it was like usually when I'm moving that I
right.
remember putting stuff like that in my actual laundry basket. I mean, it doesn't. It is strange. And if they have hair, they should be able to find out whose hair it is, especially with the way they caught the Golden State Killer, through Ancestry.com DNA, like that everyone's like they caught him through a relative. They
Yeah,
could
that's
totally.
why. Like, yeah, of the cases that I'm talking about tonight, this is why I'm. This is one where I'm actually hopeful that they really actually can do something with it, assuming that they didn't lose the evidence, and that's a big assumption. I
Mhm.
don't know. I haven't been able to like. I do know that there's this because I posted about Lindo Day's case on like a group called Authorin. Have you heard of Authorin DNA?
Mm-mm.
Like they do like they're like a group that does DNA testing on like they try to do genetic genealogy to solve cases, and I posted about her case on one of their groups. It's called DNA Solves Advocate or something like that. And somebody got in contact with me and they pointed out this group that they're a part of. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it's a advocacy group that is trying to look into the Henry Lee Lucas confessions and trying to like result like trying to like get back in, look at the evidence, and try and find out who actually did it because he did so many false confessions.
Mhm.
And I mean, Linda is one of their cases, and like that's something like at some point they want to try and look into seeing what evidence is left for all the cases, but including mine. Um, but I mean, it's just a matter of like you're talking like 300. I think they said there were like 300 confessions. So it's like 300 people that like he probably didn't kill, but
I
police
feel like I
went
should
ahead.
have
Hmm?
uh, I should have these statistics somewhere. Let me see if I can find them. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, let me. Well, while we're doing that, let me try and see if I can find the name of the group again to see if because I may be able to. Okay. because I'm trying to see.
I know I do trivia on my channel a lot. And I know I've done some stuff on him before. I think he like claimed to have killed like 600 people. And then I don't think they like confirmed very many, if any. That's what I'm trying to remember.
Right.
3 confirmed on Wikipedia out of 600. That's still like, that guy's still a killer, So I mean, that's
right. No, he did kill a bunch of people, but the problem is that like he confessed to so many cases. So then like there are cases that got basically put in a standstill because he confessed to it, and then nothing happened after that. And yeah, this is like one of those cases. Like they want to try and I know that there are people who want to try and go back over all these different cases and try to figure out like what may have actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they should at least confirm he did it or not instead of just like.
Well, he's already like in Lindo Day's case. I believe he's been ruled out.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I've just started researching like the new DNA stuff because of the Rex Heuermann case, and they're using a new type of DNA technique to determine who the killer is, and it's called whole genome something. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but they don't need to like, what's it called, CODIS or whatever the FBI uses. They match like a sequence of 20 different things, and that's how they like can say that this DNA matches this person's, because they have like good samples from the actual suspect and from the crime scene. But a lot of times they have partial DNA things. It's not like the whole thing, and you can't find that sequence of DNA. And when that happens, you can't match it to anyone. But they can take that same like DNA and analyze the whole thing, the entire genome of that specific person's DNA. And then it's like looking at the whole book rather than, a sentence out of the book. And they can actually match it directly to a person as long as they have something to match it to. It's not going to be in a database. It's not going to be quite as easy, but I think that's how they're going to capture, the death sentence or whatever Heuermann's going to get. I think he's in New York. I don't think they have the death penalty there. Right.
No, I don't think they do.
But he's most likely killed more than they've found. And that DNA, the whole genome sequencing thing, is going to be the end of his case. Plus, he's got this document that they found on his computer. I think the defense is probably going to try to say, well, they don't know for sure it's his, even though it was on his computer. Other people had access to it. But I think it's a little more rare for a woman to be a serial killer and write notes like that. But I wrote an analysis on Rex Heuermann and the way he like has this compulsion to document and learn from each kill. It's a lot like the BTK, and I put it on Kindle. I think a couple people have read it so far, but once I get the actual document, because it's not public yet, the only parts that are public were from a hearing that already took place back in September. But I think it's an interesting case, and it's all about the DNA. But yeah, they've got a lot of different ways to test things, and I guess there's also different methods. Like for the whole genome sequencing, there's like a couple different ways that they can actually test it, and they cost, I think, probably a couple $1,000 to $10,000 to test them, versus like $300 to $500 for a regular DNA test. It's just a different process, and I think it's really going to change things for a lot of these cold cases like this one.
Yeah, like I said, I probably have the most hope for this case in particular, of the three that I'm talking about, just because like there is some actual definable evidence in a way that there isn't for the other two cases. Which, yeah. So do you have any thoughts on this particular case aside from?
My first thought is, why would somebody be waiting in there? Like, I'm trying to think of like who would have motive enough to be angry enough to sit and wait. If it's a psycho guy who's like loony or something, he might have just found access to the house randomly and walked in there and just did it
Yeah.
because they had drugs back then too. People get high on something and do really bizarre things, including murder. It could have started out maybe like it was an attempt at rape, and then it ended in murder instead. But I mean, it just doesn't make sense with the knives being in the laundry basket. Like, that's like the one clue that kind of stands out, and it reminds me of the diamond knot from the Golden State Killer case. There was these two people who were murdered. One was an attorney, one was an interior designer or something. And the Golden State Killer used these knots, and he would bring them out to these houses, set them in the house, leave stuff for him to leave his tools in the home before he actually comes back to do the murder. And he would
Yeah, no, that's a great
pre-tied knots. But the diamond knot thing, it like opened up all of the speculation. And this is like back before the internet was big. So people had like different ways of communicating with like other, armchair detectives and stuff. They had like physical posts in different like locations where they communicated, or they sent actual letters to each other and talked about these things. There was no like message board like they have nowadays. And the diamond knot like came off as like it was some kind of symbol that the lawyer was trying to become a judge. So they thought it was some kind of crime, organized crime thing. And then because the wife was an interior designer, they had to use this elaborate knot to like send a message. And you can read about all of these like theories before they actually caught him. And I think what I came out up with, or what I've like read more, like it's more likely that it was just a knot that was already tied in the house, and he just randomly used it, to tie her up with it. And I mean, but that's just how speculation works, like it might sound logical, the story might fit, the facts that but then it can also be completely wrong. And so like I'm just curious, why were the knives in the laundry basket? And I mean, how would that be beneficial to somebody who's lurking inside of this house, waiting? We see movies where they've got like a killer with a gun sitting in a dark corner, waiting for somebody to come in. But if you've ever thought about that, I mean, wouldn't you get bored sitting there for hours waiting for somebody to come home like that? Like, I don't know. Like either you're like obsessively angry, like, so furious that you can't think of anything else. And then you would sit there and wait. I mean, I don't know.
I've always thought that she might have been killed by somebody that like she met at a club. It could have been just completely random, because she was going out clubbing that night. She could have met a guy, said, "Hey, I'm dropping my friends off, and then if you want to meet me back at my apartment, you can." It could have been as easy as that. And then maybe, although the knobs in the basket, I'm not really like, maybe she could have been grabbing them herself and like trying to use it to defend herself, and then he grabs it from her and then just kind of throws it. You know what I'm saying?
Like just randomly fell in there. Like she'd like tried to pick up a knife and knocked it off,
Right.
and it flew off the counter. Just happened to land in the laundry.
Or like, yeah, she might have just like grabbed a couple of knives and been like, "Hey, get away from me!" And then he kind of grabs them for him, and then he just throws them in the basket, something like that. Maybe that could have been what happened. But
Yeah, it's scary to think of something like that happening to somebody. And I've covered a lot of different cases where there's people who are just getting groceries at the grocery store, loading up their car, and some crazy ex-boyfriend shows up with a knife, and then they're dead. um I mean, it, I don't know. It's
Well, I mean,
scary.
that's kind of the point in true crime in general. Like, I feel like most of the times I read about these people, it's like a lot of the times these are just ordinary people living ordinary lives until they're not, because somebody comes at them for whatever reason. Like, I mean, all three. Well, the next case, maybe not quite so much. I mean, most of these people were all like very normal people leading ordinary lives, and then someone took them from them.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things about true crime is that the more you learn about these cases, the more um, it kind of weighs on you, and you start seeing the possibilities about, the fact that we feel like we're safe, but these crimes happen in like minutes. It's not always you get tied up for 3 days and then murdered. You could just be in the middle of loading groceries into your car. You could go to a yoga thing and then, get chased out into the parking lot. And
And Manchester was in the middle of studying.
mhm,
She had her books out on
yeah.
the table,
Yeah,
drinking.
I think that case is scarier because we don't know what happened. you know,
Right.
like anything could have happened. She could have been, captured, sold. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities when don't have a body, so you don't know for sure. And you kind of got to go like, I mean, I just imagine the parents, at least the brothers, the cousins, all of the friends, they probably over the years go back and forth on what happened to her. And, I think that it's harder and more terrifying when you don't have that. When you find out, somebody you love has been murdered, that's got to be horrible. But at least there's that, you can try to get past it because you know what happened. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. No, like at the very least, like with Linda O'Day's case, I wouldn't say like her family had closure per se, but at least they know. Like, they know that their daughter was murdered. They were able to like properly bury her. She's in a son, like,
mhm.
but and Manchester's parents don't have that.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of Natalie Holloway, right?
Right.
She died in Aruba in 2005. Her father and like was hunting for her body and her killer for over 20 years before the guy finally confessed. And I think he's still looking for her remains. I mean, that's a heartbreaking story when you think about it from, the people who love the person who's missing. When you look at it from that perspective, it's really tragic and stuff. So I feel for people who don't have the answers that they need. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started on the last case, which is the murder of Jay Farley and the disappearance of Mazie Sigmon Palmer. Do you mind if I take a drink for a second? I'm a little.
Sure, sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll just go ahead and read you my write up again, like I did for the last case. This was actually the first case that I covered. So let me go ahead and just bring it up. It should be here. Well, I had it out here. Let me see. All right. Okay, let's get to it. All right. Where did it go? I had it up here. Where did it go? Let me see. Okay. All right, here it is. Okay. The inaugural case of my page will be about the murder of Jay Farley and the disappearance of Mazie Sigmon Palmer. They disappeared from Charleston, West Virginia, after a night out on July 14th, 1979. It was the summer of 1979. Jay Farley was an 18-year-old fresh out of high school who had applied to several local jobs and was considering joining the military. He lived in Dunbar, West Virginia, with family. Mazie Sigmon Palmer was 25 years old, recently divorced, and living with her parents in Sissonville, West Virginia. She had worked various jobs in nursing homes, as well as secretarial work. While she had no criminal record, and the police don't believe she had anything to do with Jay's murder, Mazie May did have associations with motorcycle gangs and drug dealers. For a few weeks, Jay and Mazie May had begun seeing each other, albeit very casually. I mean, he's only 18 years old. They met at a bar called the Roaring Twenties in downtown Charleston. At about 11 p.m., they left the Roaring Twenties to head to another night spot. Neither of them had a car and were driven by a man named Bill Cottrell. The bar was called the King's Inn. While they were pulling into the bar, Mazie May was said to have murmured, "Oh, he's in there," but did not elaborate any further on who he was. They entered into the King's Inn and took a table on the first floor with a friend. Mazie May excused herself to go up to the second floor to speak with somebody. When she didn't come down, Jay decided to follow her upstairs, and that was the last time either of them were seen alive. When they didn't come home the next day, Jay's family were sent into immediate panic, as it was highly unusual for Jay not to contact his family, as he was very close to them. Mazie May's family, however, were less concerned, as she often spent the night elsewhere. Eventually, they were both reported missing by their family, and in 1980, the cases began to be connected. In 1984, Jay Farley's skeletal remains were found in Fayette County, about 30 miles from Charleston. He had his hands taped behind his back, and a single bullet was found underneath his skeleton. The tattered remains of his clothing matched the outfit that he was last seen in, suggesting that in all likelihood, he had been murdered on the same night he went missing. No trace of Mazie May was found with the site of Jay's remains. At the time Mazie Sigmon Palmer went missing, she was described as 26 years old, 5'6" tall, 115 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She was wearing a pink-orange blouse, blue jeans, and sandals. She may have been wearing a gold ring with a small diamond set. Mazie May was carrying a blue purse with a silver trim and a shoulder strap. If you have any information about the murder of Jay Farley and the disappearance of Mazie Sigmon Palmer, you are directed to contact the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office at 304-357-0200. So yeah, that's the Jay Farley and Mazie Sigmon Palmer case. So what are your thoughts?
Scary case. Some of the stuff that I found was that she had like aliases. I'm trying to write them in here right now. Let's see. Like she went by these aliases, and
yeah, she was doing identity theft with her younger sister. Mazie May.
Yeah, like the Lil Darko, like that just sounds like right. A made-up nickname to me.
She was from what I read, because I didn't really include that in my write-up. But yeah, you're right. She was doing. I think she was using aliases to obtain fraudulent medical medical services. Like I guess, and she. I know that she had a copy of her little sister's birth certificate, who was, I believe, 18. So it's entirely possible that Jay may have even thought that Maisie May was his age because she was using her younger sister's license. I mean, I guess birth certificate. So yeah.
To me, this case sounds like they saw something they shouldn't have seen, and they were both taken out. They haven't found her body, right? Or they did.
They never found her body. That's what makes it. That's why I think it's pretty interesting. Is like the fact that they never found her body. Like they weren't just murdered together. I mean, they might have. Honestly, it kind of felt like she was the main target, and then, or like they killed Jay in front of her first, so that she would like basically do whatever they wanted her to do. Because she did have associations with the motorcycle gangs. And
the scary thing is they found the bullet where he was killed, like in the ground, right? Like,
yeah.
what did they make him dig a hole, like you see in the movies, and then climb in? And then
no, he was killed. He was like, it didn't sound like he was buried at all. Like it was on the ground because his body had decomposed. It probably had like launch in his body, and then it like as he decomposed, because he was he disappeared in 1979. They didn't find his body until 1984. And they believe that his body had basically been out in the elements for 5 years, like not even buried. Because this was in they found his body like in a remote area of West Virginia. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with West Virginia, but it's very, like there's so many remote areas in that area. Like there's a lot of heavy and dense forests and hills and hollers. Yeah. So, yeah, the reason why they were able to identify him was because like his clothes had matched. He had actually worn, from what I remember, his shirt that he was wearing was polyester because it's 1979. He had like a polyester shirt on, like a polyester flannel shirt, so that didn't decompose, and that matched what he was reported as last seen wearing. So that like helped in identifying him. But yeah, kind of horrifying to think about, right?
Yeah, one of my friends from when I was growing up, he had a friend who, like his body was found in a, where was it? Devil's, oh shoot, I can't remember, but it was in Arkansas, right? And this guy had a drug problem, but he was, getting clean, and like there's this like mystery. They had a search party out there looking for him. And then like a few years later, they find his body just a few feet off the trail. And then you find out that the salvage yard that he worked at was owned by some cartel guys or something. And, and the parents aren't allowed to talk about it. Like they've got like something that prevents them from talking about the case. And it just makes you think like, well, that doesn't sound suspicious. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, yeah, when I hear about cases like this, they just weigh on me because these people were just living their life and then suddenly something happened. And
I mean, especially in Jay's case, he was 18 years old. He had just graduated from high school. Like, I mean, that's pretty horrific to think that he disappeared. And I really don't even think that like he had been involved in anything. There was a video on his disappearance. I mean, I guess his murder and Mazie disappearance. It's from, I don't know if you're aware of him, but it's called Mysterious WV. It's basically a YouTube channel that covers a lot of West Virginia mysteries in the state of West Virginia. Like that's what his focus is on. And in Jay Farley's case, they did wonder. There was a particular theory they were looking at where it's possible that the reason why he disappeared is because he was set to testify about police brutality. Like there was kind of like police brutality event that he had been a witness of. So like that was something they were looking into, which is possible. In my personal opinion, though, like after following the case, I mean, it seems really much more likely that the Mazie May, knowing people who were in motorcycle gangs and drug deals and the various shady things that she was doing, like I feel like it probably caught up to her, and Jay was unfortunately the collateral damage. She also had an ex-husband too, and that could be what like when I talk about oh, he's in there, that could be the he that she was referring to. You've always got to be like suspicious of the ex-husband, right?
So if they both disappeared that night, how do they know that conversation happened?
Because I think from what I understand, it's because Bill Cottrell, the guy who gave him the ride, he witnessed that. I mean, like they did.
Oh,
because like I said, they didn't have a car, so they were being given rides with people. And one of their friends, Bill Cottrell, he had given them a ride from the Warring 20s to the King's Inn, and I believe that's where like he must have overheard Mazie May saying, "Oh, he's in there." But I mean, I'm not sure if he was Jay's friend or if he was really more Mazie's friend. Like they never really specified that. But what they do know is that like he didn't. From what I've read, it doesn't seem like Bill saw Jay or Mazie after they they kind of went into the King's Inn, and then they went upstairs. Like she went upstairs first, and then he went upstairs after her, and then I don't think Bill saw them the rest of the night, and like he didn't really like wait around to like take them home or anything like that. So, they kind of got lost into the night.
Who is Mark Legg? Have you heard of that name? Because that's what came up as a suspect when I was looking into Legg.
What's the name?
Mark Legg.
Was that might have been the case that he was involved with? Mark Legg?
Yeah, Legg. He was a West Virginia. He lived in West Virginia, and he was implicated but never convicted. And he had several other serious crimes in this time period. So I don't know. I try to Google him, and I don't find very much stuff. Like there's like artists and weird things that pop up when you put his name in there. So it's like a common name, I guess.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, maybe that could be, what did they say? Did they just say that he was a suspect?
He was, it's the only name I found of a suspect, and somehow he didn't get convicted of a crime. So he must not have gotten indicted, but he was charged with other sexual assaults.
No. Okay. I think I know. I think was he? I think that may have been more on Jay's side then. I think that could have been because I know that.
Well, they said he was connected to the biker gangs, but they didn't say that he was actually a biker. So.
Yeah, that could be. That could be why. Okay, I was thinking maybe that could be involved with Jay Farley's side with the whole police brutality thing, but it might sound like he might be more connected to Mazie May. I didn't really. Where did you see that at? I didn't really.
I'm trying to.
I've never come across something before.
Let me see if I can find it again.
I know it's not on their DO network. I don't think it is.
I'm trying to see who he got charged with killing. Too.
You said his name was Mark Legg?
Yeah. Here, I'll type it in the.
I feel like okay, so I think I remember it somewhat. West Virginia.
But all I could find is
okay. No, I found why you're talking about it. Okay, I found what you're talking about. All right, it's on the International Missing Wiki page. Okay, Mark Legg is considered a suspect in both of the cases. He is a former resident of West Virginia and has been a suspect and person of interest in several unrelated crimes in West Virginia and North Carolina between 1983 and 2000s. These crimes include sexual offenses against 2 teenage boys and the murder of 2 young men. Okay, so maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible that Jay Farley could have been the target. Yeah, that could change how I think about the case.
I think it was on a website called the Charlie Project, which is just like a blog or something that I've never really like found before. So it's like half the stuff on the internet is fake, and the other half is like speculation. It's always hard to find what's real and what's not.
Yeah, you're right. Like it has been a while. I wonder, like I missed that, huh? It was funny. I didn't really. Yeah, no, I found it on a site called International Missing Persons Wiki, but then like you said, I tried Googling him, and then there isn't really anything to find. But I guess that is a suspect.
It's also this is probably the wiki page you're looking at, but it's a fandom site too. So it's like I don't know. I find information all over the place, and I try to take it with a grain of salt, and I half expect half of my stuff to be wrong because I pulled something from the wrong website. I'm trying to pull the link and it's not doing it. I'm just going to share my screen.
Are you talking about Mark Legg? Somebody's asking if he's a bodybuilder. I'm not sure if he is. I think we can't really find anything on him. Is that Olga?
Yeah, Olga. Yeah, she's always here for my shows. She's like my number one fan.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm glad she was here. But yeah, when you Google him, like if you just like pull up like the images, that's usually how I find stuff as I sort out through pictures, but there's not any good pictures. But the International Missing Persons Wiki, I don't even know how reputable that place is. And I don't like pulling information off of like fandom sites. It just sounds weird, but sometimes you find actual good information on these things that you can't find anywhere else. So, I mean, I would try to, if I was investigating this, a little more, I would probably try to find actual court records of him committing crime so I could find out, more information. But I don't know if any of these facts are accurate other than he's named in a couple different places when you search for these victims or missing people. We know the young man was murdered, but we don't know what happened to Mazie.
Yeah, I mean, I would generally guess that Maisie was probably. I feel like it's probably like her ex-husband, honestly, or somebody like associated with her ex-husband.
I don't know. It sounds like they were going somewhere to look for drugs to me.
Yeah,
You
no,
got
that's
somebody
possible
dropping
too.
off cars, and they're like, "Oh, he's here." That sounds like, "Hey, my drug dealer's here. Let me go in there real quick." But then they like see something happen, some drug deal transaction or something, or worse, even.
And I mean, like, not to get, I don't want to get too dark, but like, it's possible that what you're saying is true, and Jay is killed immediately, but they decide to keep Maisie alive for you know
Mm-hmm.
not so good reasons. And then
Right.
that would explain why like Maisie's body wasn't found in Jay's, because they might have just immediately killed Jay since they didn't see any use in him. But they had ideas for Maisie May, so that's a definite possibility. And like I said, that's why I like talking about cases with other people, because I've been very focused on, well, it must have been like an ex-husband, but like I like you bringing up the idea that it could be like she was trying to get drugs, because I never
Mm-hmm.
really. It's a possibility. I mean, like I said, she may have been. I mean, if you can infer from the fact that she was obtaining fraudulent medical services, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she could have been, addicted to prescription pills, and like that's why she had so many different identities. Is that she was obtaining them, and then maybe that could have been what was going on too. Is like she could have like just gotten some pills and she was trying to give them off to her dealer or people that she was trying to deal to, and then it just went south from there.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of drugs they did back in the 80s. I imagine they had like, you
Oh
know,
yeah, oh
like
yeah. I know that they had Quaaludes was big. Or something called
Quaaludes.
Quaaludes. Yeah, it's like a sedative.
Oh,
They had amphetamine pills. Um,
mhm.
OxyContin, I don't think was a thing. I don't think that was there yet. I know, but I believe like stuff like amphetamines, depressants, yeah, that all would have been. I know that I don't think. I doubt it would be anything like crack cocaine or.
Well,
Um,
I don't know the slang names for stuff, but the one thing that keeps coming to my mind is like crank, and I only think of it because of bikers and something I seen in a movie.
right.
I don't know what they called things, and they probably had all kinds of names for this stuff, but I think they probably had a lot of um, uppers, you know.
Cocaine was big. I know that cocaine was very big. Starting like by like the mid 70s, like cocaine was a pretty big thing. She could have been like stealing prescription pills and trying to trade them for cocaine or something like that. So that's a possibility as well. Um,
See what I can Google. I'm curious now because I mean I don't know what they call it. Like I think of like acid. That would have been like the
right.
70s.
That could be a big one too.
So crack cocaine, heroin, cocaine, and I don't know what the difference between crack cocaine and cocaine is, but PCP.
That was a big one.
Um,
Yeah, PCP was a big one.
I think that's the one that caused people to like hallucinate. And then it doesn't tell me what kind of methamphetamines, but I guess it was still methamphetamines back then. And then sedatives, the Quaalude that you you mentioned. And you know what? I actually remember watching a movie where the girl overdoses on this and almost dies. It was maybe Rockstar or the
Right.
one of those shows about traveling reporter. Yeah, it was a traveling reporter who was following a band. It wasn't Rockstar, it was something else, but it was. I think that's where I've heard of that before, but I've never.
And you just made me think of another possibility. Like maybe Maisie May overdosed on something. They went and buried her someplace, and then Jay was freaking out about it, and they knew they couldn't trust him to keep his mouth shut. So then they murdered him there. That's another possibility. I mean, but no, I definitely think that I would definitely lean towards drugs having something significant to do with the case. Just because it seems like, I mean, they're out and partying, right? Like they're young, they're out and partying, and then the way, that's a definite possibility here. And like we know that she was involved with motorcycle gangs and drug deals, so it doesn't feel like that much of a leap.
I'm trying to find one of the shorts I've done recently that's like an unexplained case where the girl goes missing from a car accident. But I can't remember her name. So I may not be able to find it. But like somebody saw her crash her car, and then like two people called the police, and then she disappeared.
Oh yeah, no, that's the Murray case.
Who is it?
Moore Murray.
Moore and Murray. Ah, yeah, that is her. I did a short video on her. Let me see if I can find it now with the name.
Yeah, she's definitely one of probably the famous, I guess, in the true crime community. She's probably one of the best known.
What's her last name again?
Murray. Moore Murray. Murray.
And I don't think I used the name in the. I know I did it though. I'm trying to see if I can find it. But yeah, she disappeared from a car accident. She hit a fence or something, and somebody thought that maybe she had been drinking and driving and tried to hide from the police, and then something might have happened to her. I think somebody kidnapped her from there. There's another one with this kid who called his parents, and he was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get home," and then he ends up dead, like 2 counties in the wrong direction from his house. And the problem is there's like so many names, it's hard to remember all of these people. And when I started doing these videos, I didn't name them in the thing every time. So I guess that was a bad choice.
Well, I mean, we know in James Farley's case, like he was definitely murdered. I mean, his hands were taped behind his back. He was found with a bullet wound. Like that was definitely a murder case. But then we don't know what really happened to Maisie May. Like, was she murdered, or did she witness something and then kind of skedaddled with all the different multiple? I mean, she clearly knew how to set up a fake identity for herself. So if she tried to leave, I'm sure she probably could have made that happen. But yeah, you kind of wonder. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I still think that she was at a biker bar for, drug reasons, and she probably just got murdered.
Which does make sense, but you do wonder why, why they weren't murdered together. I mean, it's possible that they murdered him first in front of her just to make a message, and then they kind of just took her to a different place because they figured that if they both were murdered at the same location, it might be easier to solve the case. So then they murder Jay in front of her so that she knows that they mean business, and then they take her to a different place and then murder her there just to I guess just mentally screw with her. So that could be why it's set up like that.
People are evil, and these people, it's hard to guess what they're doing and why they're doing them. these things. Like there's some people that do it for like just fun, and that's terrible.
And then
But
yeah,
I would like to think that most murders happen, out of like some like incident, like, it's not cold-blooded. It's actually like something happened, people got angry, and then something happened, like it wasn't intended. But 1980 was a lot different. And if this bar that they went to was a biker bar, I think they should have stayed away. I don't know.
especially Jay Farley.
If it was like, I mean, what if it was the boy, the 18-year-old that like knew somebody there? Like, what if it wasn't like, what if everybody's been thinking about this case from her perspective? She's older, she's got more connection, she's doing all of these things. Well, what if this kid was trying to get, a job or something, and they thought he was a cop?
And that's the possibility too. Like that, like it could be because and you're right. Like we are like when you look at this case, most people definitely seem to think that like Mazie May is the target because she's older, she's more experienced, she's already been involved in shady things. But I mean, the possibility is that Jay Farley could have been the target. I mean, there was the theory of maybe Mark Legg. Maybe, I mean, it did say that he had a preference for, I guess, younger boys. So possibly maybe like Jay was a target, or maybe Jay was like planning on turning him in. And then that could be what happened. But I just wish there was more information on Mark Legg and like exactly what he did.
I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll probably be able to find actual court documents somewhere. I think it's harder to find stuff from the 80s than it is today, and everything's digital now. I mean, you can get access to court records or public record. You could get access, but if it's in a file somewhere that's archived in a warehouse somewhere, you may never actually see it. I mean, I think they tried to transfer all that stuff to like microfilm or something weird that they don't even use anymore. So I don't know. I'm curious though. I wish I could remember what those cases were that I was trying to find, just so I could show you, like that one with the kid who was talking to his parents on the phone. Like,
I think he was. Well, wait, no, I think I remember the name now. His name is Zach, maybe. Zach's. I think I know the case you're talking about. It was in Minnesota. I think they recently. No, they didn't find his. I don't think they ever found his body. I know they found the body of a similar case. This one was a young father who was like out in the middle of a field, and he was like calling his family, and then he disappeared after that. I think they eventually found his body. His name was Brandon Swanson.
That's his name. Yeah, Brandon Swanson.
Yeah. I think they found his body, but there's a different case that's very similar that happened in Minnesota. I don't think they found his body yet, but it's probably like the same deal.
Yeah, I think I need to go back and rename all of my videos because it's weird. I can't search for anything by the name on my channel. I never noticed that before. But yeah, I come up with names like everyone's talking about this case, but then you don't know what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of people who just disappear, and that one was weird because he was on the phone. He was literally talking to his parents, and he thought he was just like down the street, and then They find him like a few counties over, and I think his last words were like, "Oh shit" or something. I mean, that's got to be a nightmare if you're a parent listening to the kid talk and, hey, was it a bear? I mean, you know what I mean? Was it aliens? Who knows? Like, I mean, it's
yeah.
scary.
I mean, well, in Jay Farley's case, we definitely know that it wasn't a bear. A bear didn't.
Yeah, that is true. They found the bullet, and I imagine if they have the bullet, they could probably test it, and there's probably a gun somewhere that the ballistics would match. I don't think
Yeah.
they
From
use a
what
gun once.
I believe, like I remember like reading somewhere that they've made the records more public for those two cases, just because they are trying to encourage people to cover them. Jay Farley and Mazie Palmer. Like that's what I was reading somewhere. I could be wrong, but I did read that. Just because they want more people to cover it, because like their family just want answers, really. Easy.
Yeah. It's, if you think about it, a lot of these cases, it's weird how certain cases get national attention and others don't. And unfortunately, it's usually like minority cases that don't get noticed, or people who aren't from middle-class families that don't get noticed. And their cases are just as important, and I mean, there's families out there that love those people, and they're missing. They could be alive, they could be dead, and they just don't get the attention. If they had more attention, when people talk about these cases, like just like we're talking about them, it could trigger somebody to think about it a different way, and then they look for the something that changes everything. But I've been doing most of my research on the Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann lately, and writing fiction also. But I'm really curious what's going to happen with the Rex Heuermann case now that this DNA evidence has been. The judge said that it will be allowed in the trial, and it's never been allowed before. So it's kind of a big deal. I kind of expect he's going to do a plea deal at some point, and there may not be a trial, but it's hard to say,
Yeah, I mean, to go a little, I guess we could talk a little bit about I'm pretty familiar with the Rex Heuermann case to an extent. I don't know if I'm like as deeply as research as you have, but I've definitely followed like the blogs about his case. And do you remember Dale Dinwiddie? She is the girl who disappeared in 1992 from South Carolina after like attending a U2 concert. Like,
I'm thinking of somebody who went to a concert and like her ex-boyfriend brought her home, but then he killed her. But I don't know.
No.
What was the name you said?
Dale Dinwiddie. Wait, let me go ahead and type it in. Can I type it in? Wait.
I don't know. Do you have access to the chat? Nobody's ever asked me. Yeah, you should. I think you should have access to the chat. And if you don't, you can open up the browser and type in the chat.
Do you see it? I sent you a message. I don't know if you see it.
Oh, I do. Here, I'll type it in.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people are wondering if you might have killed in different areas. And I think...
Yeah, this is not the person I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, the reason why they're looking at him is because he had ties to South Carolina. Like Dale Dinwiddie, she was in her 20s. She was a graduate student, and in South Carolina, she went to attend a concert, and then she was out partying for a little bit after the concert, and then she supposedly tried walking home or something like that, and then she vanished. And I think people may be looking at Rex Heuermann because he owned property in South Carolina. I think, yeah. So he has ties to South Carolina, so people are looking at South Carolina cases, which Dale Dinwiddie would be one of them.
So I just want to show you what I wrote. This is basically, it's a long analytical paper that talks about the HK 2002-04 planning document that they talked about in September at a trial. And in it, they talk about all these things where he's like, this is HK supposedly represents hunt kill. And I mean, he had like notes for the next kill. And there, I think if they can prove that it's actually his, it could change how people look at some types of killers, because he had this like compulsive need to document it. Like, I don't think that's normal. The BTK did it also, but you don't hear about too much of people who like plan things out, write about it, and document it. And it's like, like a scientist doing, growing corn plants, I use this amount of light and this amount of blah, 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 this kind of fertilizer, and this worked, this didn't work, so I'm going to try this next time. He did that in this document, in how he killed people, how he targeted people, all of it. It's mostly speculation because I haven't seen the actual document yet. But I mean, you can read the transcript from the hearing where they talk about it in detail.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
So was it a concert that Dale?
This is my mom going to sleep.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it was definitely in concert. Let me see if I can give you that link about it. That may be a case you could look up.
These are the kind of cases that I do shorts on usually. The downside is when she was attending a U2 Zoo TV concert, whatever that means. But the downside of like doing short videos on this stuff is you don't spend a lot of time researching. It's a 2 or 3 minute thing, so it's harder for me to remember all the details of a lot of these shorts that I do. So I try to do like a lot of research, plan for doing a long form video, and then do shorts and instead sometimes. But this is exactly the kind of case. There is a lot of information on this one, a lot of interesting stuff. I might actually look it up and write about it.
Yeah, just because like you could, like I said, people, I know that because of the South Carolina connections, people have been wondering if like maybe Rex Heuermann. I know that people are like looking at older cases and wondering.
Yeah, well, at the moment I can't remember what the number of victims they think is his, like, but they're only charging him with 7 or something. I think right now they're going to trial with 7 victims, and I guess the idea is that after they find him guilty or not guilty on these 7 murders, then others are going to follow afterwards, because I guess they don't really need to do them all at once. It seems like it might actually make the trial more difficult for the prosecutors, because they got to prove murder, beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think if you have too many victims at one trial, it gets more, it's easier to prove a shadow of doubt in a juror's mind, because jurors are just like everyone else. They're just people. Some of them might know more about these types of cases than others, but they're all going to be just they just get the information that's given to them, and they got to make decisions off of that. So I mean, I was at first, when I heard that they were only doing 7, I was kind of upset. I'm like, well, what about these other people? But I don't know that there's a statute of limitation on murder, so he will get charged eventually for a lot more. So it's not horrible that they're doing it that way.
I mean, and plus, like, because he'll have his DNA in the system, it's going to make it a lot easier to connect cases to him. Like,
well, the problem with the DNA is that it's not like a drop of blood. It's like, it's not a good sample of, like, that they found. That's why I think they had only like familial DNA based off of the DNA they found on one of the victims, and it was like they could trace it to his mother, but not to him directly. But now that they've got the whole genome DNA, that's going to take like a year to process. Once they have it, they will be able to definitively say that that's his DNA or not. It's a much longer process. It's much more expensive. There's multiple ways that they can get that test result or whatever, however they do it. I don't know. I've been researching it. It's kind of hard to understand the differences in the DNA stuff. One of the people I've had on my channel, she actually studied that kind of stuff, and she was helping me understand it a little better. But you can look it up, whole genome DNA, and the Rex Heuermann case. It's the first time that it's ever been admitted in a court of law. So it's a big deal. It's going to change things. I think there was a couple cases in California where it was introduced as evidence, but then there was a change of plea that happened. They took a deal instead of going to trial, so it never had to be like admitted or not.
Probably was it the I think it was the what was it, the Golden State Killer, right? Because I think he took he wouldn't be like the first one that did genealogy to get caught.
That's genealogy, so that's a whole different thing.
Oh, okay, it is. Okay.
They needed people who actually researched family trees to like figure that one out. Like, that was a whole different way of looking at it. They could. I actually intend to read up on how they did that, because it wasn't just like a simple thing. They didn't just say, "Oh, look, his DNA matches these people on Ancestry.com." They actually had people go through and like research family trees and like find, like, linked it all the way back to him. And then when they got I think they got some DNA out of a trash can to finally match it to him. But it was because of those people doing the like hands-on research. What do they call it when you research your family tree?
I thought that was just called genealogy, right? Yeah, genealogy.
I think it's something else too. But I'm trying to find my whole genome thing. I think I did a presentation on it, actually. It might be a PDF file.
Okay.
Is it not showing up all the way? That's weird. Here. Boom. This is not the right one, but it's basically the part of it. I don't know where the actual document is, unfortunately. I should have a Word document with it in there.
Ancestry. We'll go saying ancestry.
Yeah, I guess it is genealogy. I can't even say the word. Genealogy. But yeah, I've done a DNA test on Ancestry.com, and I found a cousin of mine who like had all the information my family needed to enroll in the Cherokee tribe. My grandfather used to always say that we were part Cherokee and all these things, and then but nobody could ever prove it. But I guess his niece, his sister, and him, I guess somehow they didn't communicate that much or something. They didn't talk, and she had all the information. So it was kind of cool. But other than that, I found out that there's one of my ancestors had a castle for about 300 years, and then they sold it. That was kind of cool too. But
Cool.
Anyway, I know it's getting late there in Delaware.
So is there anything like you guys would like to know about me, or any opinions I might have on different cases? I think
what are you working on now? Like, are you researching anything actively, or?
So I mainly just do my blog. Like I usually go to Charlie. I do a lot of I find a lot of the cases that I cover on Charlie Project, like which I guess I usually pick like a geographic area, because I try and like I said, I limit the cases I cover to different states. And right now, like I said, I just sometimes I come across a lot of different cases that way. Oh, there is one that I think might be interesting, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's not okay. Her name is, because this is one I just covered. There's not that much on her case, but I did think it was interesting. Let me see if I can find it again. I think her name was Ethel. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so here it is. Okay, her name.
Oops, I think I just lost him. That's a big cliffhanger right there, man. I don't know what happened. I'll give him a few minutes and maybe he'll come back. I don't have a link to his blog, which I was gonna get, so you guys go check it out. But it looks like he disappeared. Let me email him and see if he's coming back. Oh, there he is. Hey.
Yeah.
That was a big cliffhanger right there. Like, you're like, she was a, and then poof, you're gone,
Yeah. I was bringing it up and then it just went. But so like if you guys are interested in a wormhole, or I guess what we call a rabbit hole, this was like a new one that I kind of just came across. That's interesting because like it's not just her case, it's also like there may have been like a possible serial killer. But I'll just go ahead and tell you a little bit about the case so you guys can think about it. Her name was Ethel Louise Atwell. She is a 42-year-old woman who went missing from Staten Island. And what happened was, like, she was just going into work. She worked at a facility for children with intellectual disabilities. And I believe she was like a physical therapist. She goes into work at 6 a.m. and then before she can get into her job, somebody hears her screaming. They hear a man screaming at her, come on. And then they hear her screaming, no, you'll beat me. And then that's it. And then because it's dark out, the two co-workers who were working with her, they don't see her. They can't like give a description of the person who kidnapped her. But like when the police come, they find that like it was pretty obviously like a kid, like it was obviously an abduction. Like her coat buttons were found scattered on the floor. They found like a stocking. They found, like various pieces of her outfit, like that had been pulled off. Like it had been a struggle. And then like I don't want to go too into this because I am aware that's pretty late at the time, but yeah, that's the case. So with her case, they think that she was a victim of a man named Andre Rand, who is in all likelihood, he's considered for various cases in Staten Island in the 1970s and 80s. So if maybe that's like a killer you may want to look up, then that could be interesting for you.
Is that this guy here in the?
Yep.
That's who
His name was Andre Rand. They think he was also connected to this other. He was convicted later on of kidnapping a girl that had disappeared from the same facility that Ethel had disappeared from. And like this had happened in 1985. They convicted him of kidnapping her. They didn't convict him of murdering her, but like, I mean, like they think it's a really good possibility that's connected. And he's also being looked at for the differences, the disappearances of Alice Pereira. Sorry, I'm butchering that, in 1972. Tyhees Jackson and Henry Gaffaro, and then also Audrey Nuremberg. So, like, if you're interested, like that might be. I might actually go into that too. We'll see if you're always interested in like looking up a different type of. I mean, he's a serial killer.
I do. I don't know. I've been on a kind of a break with the true crime. I get it. I've been writing fiction. I've been working on a story for my son, and like it's been a good break. I haven't done very many shorts or anything in the last couple of weeks, and I haven't done like a lot of heavy research on killers in a couple of weeks, just because it weighs on you, I think it's good to take breaks every now and then. But I do like researching cases, and especially the ones where there's a lot of room for speculation. I just think they're a lot more interesting.
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah.
What is can you send your link to your blog so I could share it in the chat, and then I'll put it in the.
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and get it. All right, let's get back to Facebook. Right. Let me know if that link works. I fully expect Olga to join me. Thank you for staying along with us. Olga, you're a champ.
But yeah, if you want to look up something, you should look up what was his name? I just had it. Rodney Letterman and the Devil's Den in Arkansas. Like it's just weird that like they found his remains just a little ways off of the trail that he was lost. Like he went missing on the trail. Like he had and they had hundreds of people out there looking for him, and nobody found him, like so close to the trail. When they, it's suspicious that they had search dogs, and nobody found him. And if he was there the whole time, it's just like really bad luck that they didn't find him. But yeah, you guys get the link. And what was it called again? The
Mid-Atlantic Unsolved. It's on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, thank you for joining me. I know it's late there. I know it's getting late here. But that makes it really late there.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's fun. I'm kind of not all anyway, but it was really interesting talking to you. And
all right, yeah, keep in
as
touch.
As well as you, Olga. Olga, I'm just gonna say hi to you. Thank you so much for following along.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the topic tonight, and I hope you go check out his blog. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight to everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, man. I love talking to you, man. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.